Sheryl Sandberg, who was the COO of Meta, really kicked off a huge global conversation with her book Lean In. And what's so great about it is that it's this mix of her own stories, some really solid data, and super practical advice. But it all comes down to this one big question. Why aren't there more women at the top? It's not just a call to action, though. Think of it more like a modern roadmap for pretty much anyone trying to figure out the whole gender dynamic thing in the professional world.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to break down 5 of the most powerful ideas from the book. First up, we'll dive into this thing she calls the leadership ambition gap. Then we'll get into what it really means to sit at the table and why you should be thinking about a jungle gym instead of a ladder. After that, we'll talk about why changing the system is so important and wrap it all up with what it means to lean in together.
Okay, so let's get right to the heart of it, right? The leadership ambition gap. The big question Sandberg is asking is, why are so few women actually making it to the very top?
What's really interesting is how Sandberg kicks things off. She actually admits to her own self-doubt, which is pretty surprising, right? It just goes to show that even the most successful women can feel insecure. And that personal story, well, it's the perfect way to start talking about the very real barriers, the ones inside our own heads and the ones out there in the workplace that are causing this leadership gap.
So this brings her to a huge concept in the book, the confidence gap. You've probably heard of this. It's this phenomenon where women often underestimate what they can do, and they might hesitate to, take a big risk or negotiate for a better salary. And here's the kicker. She argues that this internal barrier, it's just as tough to overcome as any external discrimination you might face.
Okay, so if this confidence gap is a big part of the problem, what's the solution? Where do you even start? Well, for Sandberg, it all begins with one simple, powerful action. Sit at the table. This whole section is about tackling those internal barriers head-on.
She literally urges women to sit at the table. And that means physically claiming your space in a meeting. Speaking up, getting your ideas out there. This metaphor is huge. It comes up again and again in the book. It's all about symbolizing the need for women to be active participants, to lead instead of hanging back or withdrawing.
And then there's this other really subtle but super powerful idea she talks about. Women who leave before they leave. So what does that mean? It's when women start mentally checking out, maybe turning down new projects or promotions, not because of family responsibilities they have right now, but because they're anticipating them in the future. Sandberg makes the point that this kind of premature retreat is a huge career limiter. It just ends up reinforcing the way things have always been.
But what if the whole idea of a career path as a straight line to the top is just wrong? This is where Sandberg really challenges the traditional idea of a career ladder, and she offers up a totally different model, the jungle gym. Believe me, it's a completely fresh way to think about your career journey.
Yeah, forget that old, rigid, one-way career ladder. Sandberg's idea is the jungle gym. And just picture it. A jungle gym lets you make moves to the side, maybe take a strategic pause, or pivot in a totally unexpected direction. It's all about being flexible and making choices that actually fit your life as it evolves. This is a total game changer, right? Especially for anyone trying to juggle a career and a family, because it makes it okay that there isn't just one single right way to get to the top.
While you're climbing that jungle gym, Sandberg says something else is absolutely critical: mentorship and sponsorship. And she draws a really sharp line between the two. See, mentors are great. They give you guidance and advice. But sponsors? They're the ones who actively use their pull to advocate for you, to get you those promotions and opportunities. And she points out that women often just wait to be noticed instead of actively going out and finding that kind of powerful support.
But here's the thing. Leaning in on your own can only take you so far, especially if the whole system is broken. And this brings us to a really crucial part of the book. Individual effort is not enough. We have to change the system, and that's a responsibility that belongs to every single one of us.
Honestly, one of the most powerful arguments in the whole book is that this is not just a women's issue. Sandberg directly calls on men to be true partners in all of this. And she also pushes for big systemic changes in our workplaces. Things like paid leave and flexible schedules that help all families, not just some. The message couldn't be clearer. Empowering yourself is vital, but it has to be paired with real institutional reform. Companies have got to step up, tackle their unconscious biases, and be truly transparent about how they hire and promote people.
So when you put it all together, that individual action and the big picture systemic change, you get to the book's ultimate goal, leaning in together. And this final section is great because it tackles some of the criticism the book received, but also reinforces its powerful call to action. It's important to note, and Sandberg herself acknowledges this, that her perspective comes from a place of privilege. And because of that, Lean In might not fully speak to the experiences of all women, like women of color, LGBTQ+ individuals, or those working in lower-income jobs. She actually invites more conversation around intersectionality and systemic inequality, basically recognizing that for real progress to happen, you absolutely have to include diverse voices and have inclusive strategies.
So when you boil it all down, the core mission of Lean In is really two things at once. On one hand, it's a movement challenging women to own their ambition and lead with confidence. But, and this is just as important, it's also a call to all of us and to our organizations to actually dismantle the barriers that are standing in the way. It's about creating a world where absolutely everyone has a real chance to thrive.
So, what's the big takeaway here? It's this. Whether you're trying to figure out your own career, you're managing a team, or maybe you just want to be a better ally, Sandberg's ideas really give you a framework to make real change. And it leaves every one of us with a pretty important question to think about. What's one barrier, whether it's internal, in your own head, or external, out in the world, that you can help remove this week?